Hello, nerds! Thank you once again for watching Generally Nerdy. This is your week in Nerdom, and we're switching things up this week. I'm going to break this video into 5 videos and post one a day, so I've got something to be posting all week. And now we're watching the video games portion of your week in Nerdom. And in video game news, the Video Game Awards happened last weekend. Did you watch them? If not, we're going to talk about them, and I'm going to spoil some stuff you've probably already looked up online. We are also talking about some Overwatch news, which is really awesome, and I'm super hyped about. Those things and much more in video game news this week. But before we get in over our heads, we are going right into an intro sequence.
Quiet on the set. Rolling.
Hi, I am Bitsy Telek.
Hey, I'm Hale Appleman.
I'm Walter Kane.
I'm Rene Aubergenois. Odo on Deep Space Nine.
Michael Dorn, Lieutenant Commander Worf, Star Trek The Next Generation.
Come and see me and hear me and talk to me and listen to me talk about myself.
Hey man, this is Kevin Smith, often considered generally nerdy, and you are listening to what is often considered generally nerdy.
On Generally Nerdy.
You're listening to
Generally Nerdy.
Generally Nerdy.
Generally nerdy.
Video game news. A lot of things happened this weekend. The December 7th was this past Friday, and it was the Video Game Awards. So I'm just going to go over a couple of points. I'll put a link to the list of all of the winners in the description. So from the Video Game Awards, we had a trailer for Death Stranding, which only confuses us all that much more. Why does Norman Reedus have a baby in him? What is the significance of the babies? Is this an alien thing that we're fighting, or is it a supernatural thing that we're fighting? So many questions. Here is my 2 cents of a projection for what it all means. The babies are not actually babies. I don't know about the one inside Norman Reedus, if that was just there to shock and awe, but the babies inside the 2-liter bottles that they had in their little pouches or packs or whatever, those are some sort of... I am going with aliens, and the babies are not human babies. They are something that the humans have stole so that they like power these packs that they're wearing that sense when the other creatures are around. Because if you notice, the baby that Reedus was wearing, the container filled with that oily substance when the thing that left the handprints all over, when it got near, is when this got black. So I'm assuming this is some sort of like the radio in Silent Hill. It's a warning that you're about to run into some trouble. I'm also assuming that the team that Norman Reedus' character is on has something to do with. They looked like they were scavenging, so I would imagine they're like the last resistance of humans or something along those lines, and the people that he's a part of, the group that he's a part of, are trying to eradicate the aliens. So it's kind of a falling skies kind of element in that portion of it. It is Hideo Kojima, so it can't be that simple. There's going to be a lot more to it than that, but I feel like that's a fair assumption for what's going on. Although maybe all that's correct, and the baby inside Norman Reedus' belly is some sort of indication that he's infected with the alien something, or maybe he's secretly one of the aliens and he doesn't realize it himself, or some sort of human-alien hybrid. Those I'm not very sure of, but I'm relatively sure that the babies themselves are not actually human babies. They're some sort of indicator of trouble. As far as story goes, I got nothing. I mean, absolutely zero on what this story could be about, but that I feel like are elements of the story. So yeah, definitely going to keep our eyes on that. Still no release date for Death Stranding because Hideo just likes to take his sweet ass time. But yeah. Oh, and something worth noting is that one of the executives from Sony says that after the first 5 hours or so, we will understand everything that happened in that trailer that we just saw at the Video Game Awards. Definitely going to leave a link to that trailer in the description because if you haven't seen it yet, you owe it to yourself because it's bizarre and incredibly intriguing. Switch announcements that were at the Video Game Awards, just a few of them that were noteworthy. Bayonetta 1 and 2 are getting ported over to the Switch, and then Bayonetta 3 is being developed specifically for the Switch, so that's weird. Been a long time that there's been a third-party developer developing specifically for a Nintendo system, so could be great, I don't know, just a thing that's happening. And like I was postulating before about Rocket League when it was announced that it will be ported over to the Switch, I was wondering if maybe it would be cross-platform like the PC and Xbox versions are, and it will be. So, if you're a Rocket League player on the Switch, you can play with all your friends who play on Xbox, and you can play with all your friends who are playing on PC as well. So that's pretty awesome. Other announcements, nothing really crazy that I was super excited about for the Switch. There's some winners that we'll go over in a second, but as far as like new things for Nintendo, it's Nintendo. That's kind of the way they roll. They just don't. There's a lot of first-party stuff and very little third-party support. That's just kind of how they've always done it. That being said, though, Soul Calibur 6 was announced. So I'm always, through and through, forever and ever, a Mortal Kombat fan. It wasn't the first fighting game I ever played. The first fighting game I ever played was Street Fighter 2. But it was the first fighting game that I really got into, that I was really immersed in. And part of it was because it was easy to pick up on, and yet there was a fair amount of depth. Not quite as much depth as the early Street Fighter games, but the early Mortal Kombat games, there was still a bit of depth, especially once you get into Mortal Kombat 3 and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 and so on and so on. But the second game that I got really, really into was Soul. I think it was Soul Edge or Soul Blade. I think it was Soul Edge. Which was the first game in the Soul Calibur series. Soul Calibur was the second game, and Soul Calibur was that much better, and then they've just gotten better and better and better and better and better. And I also really got into Tekken. I haven't played 7 yet. I really, really want to because it looks fantastic. I'm just poor AF. And yeah, so haven't got that deep into it yet, but I love the Tekken games. But Soul Calibur 6 was announced. Nothing as far as story and all of that jazz, but I'm super excited about it, and we're moving on. GTFO is an anagram for Get the Freak Out. I feel like I'm editing that a little bit. Anyway, it's also a game that looks insane by 10 Chambers Collective, who did the Payday games, Payday 1 and Payday 2. Didn't play either of those, but I'm super interested in playing this GTFO. What WTF is GTFO, because it's like alien invasion monster things with ghosts and who knows, zombies maybe. It was intense. Doodly-doo. Yeah, I'll put a link to all of the winners in the description. But a couple of really, really noteworthy winners. I'm super stoked that Cuphead won Best Art Direction because it is beautiful, hand-drawn animation in 2017 is unheard of, and they made a whole freaking game with it. That's super in-depth and just awesome. So good on you guys. But they won Best Art Direction. Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Action Adventure Game, all went to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I am hoping that sometime in the next month or so I'm going to get my hands on a Switch and start playing Breath of the Wild because that game looks awesome. The new DLC is up and live as of airing of the Video Game Awards, so yes, please and thank you, with the motorcycle and the things. Best ongoing game. This is the first year they've done it. This is a great category because I've always thought it was really bogus that games like World of Warcraft or back in the day City of Heroes and all these things, they're not eligible for any video game awards because they came out years ago. Even though we're getting updates and they're still maintaining these games, they're not eligible for awards until now. Best ongoing game went to Overwatch. We'll get to more Overwatch news in just a minute, but that's pretty awesome. I think it's really cool that they're putting that out there. Best fighting game went to, of course, Injustice 2, because, yeah, easily the best fighting. Again, I haven't played them all, but I do watch a lot of videos from people who do streams and such, and Let's Play videos and so on and so forth, and easily Injustice 2 is the best fighting game. It makes for the best tournaments, just so much depth. The coolest thing, alright, so probably the coolest thing about Injustice, and also the coolest thing about the Smash Brothers games, is they're so easy to play that literally anyone can play them. The control scheme is as such that you can pick up, and even if you don't have any idea what you're doing, you can still accomplish things on screen. That being said, there's also an incredible amount of depth to both. I am definitely talking about Injustice and Smash Brothers, but just and they're very different control schemes. They're just both so simple yet so deep. And again, I think Injustice is probably a little bit more on the depth side of things. Smash Brothers is a little more on the simple side of things, but still, they both strike a pretty good balance. Yeah, so that, I think, is why it deserved. If there had been a Smash Brothers that had come out this year for the Switch, there would have been tight competition. It would have been, I don't know, one of these two games is going to win, but which one is up in the air. Being as that didn't happen, it was easy to guess what game was going to be best fighting game. Even though Street Fighter's getting some pretty good reviews, and the new Tekken as well. Just as far as all-around well-rounded games, you can't beat Injustice, man. You just can't do it. But yeah, so that's all of the things I really wanted to touch on from the Video Game Awards. Again, I'll link to a list of all of the winners down low and some of the trailers as well. But we're going to get into some of those trailers, the first of which being the World War Z trailer. For anyone who has read the book, then you know that it is a fantastic property. The story of World War Z is one that you just can't shake. Like, it's very well told. Max Brooks, yes, he is the son of Mel Brooks. Max Brooks is the author, also the author of the Zombie Survival Guide, and he's done a couple other things, but World War Z, in my eyes at least, is probably his biggest and most noteworthy story that he has told, and just fantastic book. Now, the movie with Brad Pitt is a little disappointing, and when I say a little disappointing, I mean it's quite disappointing. It's not bad. It's definitely not one of the worst zombie movies that's out there. I mean, you could definitely go, there's much worse zombie movies. This is a pretty solid, middle-of-the-road kind of zombie movie that has a couple of thematic elements that are just like, yeah, that's really interesting that nobody has done that before this movie. So, I mean, it did kind of expand the modern zombie stereotype. Or that's not the word I'm looking for, but it's the word we're going with. So it's not a bad movie. It's just not great. The book is fantastic. The book is amazing. The movie is meh. So the video game, we just got a trailer for from the Video Game Awards, and it looks like it's gonna be along the lines of the movie. How much are they going to borrow from one or the other? Are they going to borrow it all from the book? We don't know. The visuals look very much like the movie. One bit of the trailer that has me a little concerned as far as book inclusion is in the book, when winter came, that's kind of what helped them overcome the zombie insurgents, is the winter slowed them down. They froze, and so they could be managed. And actually, people who lived in higher elevations had less of a zombie problem to deal with. In the trailer for the game, they make a reference to the fact that we hoped we hoped the snow would slow them down, and then it says they didn't. And it's this really great cinematically, really epically shot. It's the camera's dollying back, and then we get an opening in the fence that because we're inside two fences on a train track. So there's an opening off to the side, and the camera dollies back. The opening, as it says, we were wrong or whatever, and then a horde of zombies just floods in the snow, and that's not how it happened in the book. So as far as gameplay, how this will translate into better gameplay than other zombie games, that is possible. That I don't have any reservations about how it's going to play. I think it will be solid in that respect. The storytelling elements are the things that have me a little concerned. Because I am such a fan of the book. So that being said, I think we're giving a little bit too much gravity, or too much time anyway, to this, and we should move on. I'm going to skip the big announcement. We're going to move right over to Pokemon Go. If you don't play Pokemon Go, I salute you. I'm kind of joking, but kind of not. So Pokemon Go, for the uninitiated, is the mobile app. Hi, buddy. Are you going to help me tell stories? Oh, come here. We have a visitor. Russo likes to help me tell the news. Anyway, so for the uninitiated, Pokemon Go is a mobile app. It's a game that has a lot of potential, and so far has yet to meet that potential. What do I mean by that? So Pokemon came out in like 98, I believe, in the States. In Japan, it was like 96. It was a Game Boy game. It's only been a Game Boy game primarily. There have been a couple of console games that they've released, but they are not proper Pokemon games. They are Pokemon adjacent, in a way. Anyway, it was a Game Boy game where you catch pocket monsters, hence Pokemon. And they live in Pokeballs, or they are trapped in Pokeballs, and that's where Pikachu comes from, and there's a whole list of all of these Pokemon, which are effectively the animals of this world, and they battle, and it's kind of strange, because battling animals in the real world is a bad thing. Anyway, so one thing that the Pokemon franchise kind of has been ignoring to varying degrees since it's come out is the internet community, which it has started. And what they can do that they haven't yet is a console game in which you can go online and battle other actual people. I believe in some of the Game Boy games you can battle as long as you're linked. I think they have a Wi-Fi link for more modern Game Boy systems, or the DS systems even. And anyway, what they could have done by now is a console game, and that console game could have been you get online, you battle other Pokemon trainers, and you trade Pokemon and you know, player versus player, and then there's also a story and so much stuff. That hasn't really happened yet. Instead, we get Pokemon Go, and that is a mobile app that, man, you walk around. I mean, it's really cool in that you walk around. You have to physically walk around in the real world, so it's quasi augmented reality, and you go catch Pokemon in the real world. But there's no acknowledgement of people who are around you unless you're at a gym, unless you're at a gym, or there's a big battle. It was one of the more recent updates. You can go all try and catch one massive Pokemon at the same time. So now the fans are starting to get to the point where, like, all right, give us player versus player. I want to fight my friends. I want to train with their Pokemon and all of these things. That's not happening yet. What is happening is a weather system. We are getting weather. Yeah. Weather's supposed to be happening in real time. All right, you're done. Say bye. Say bye. Okay, bye. Go this way. Go on. Yeah, weather happens in real time. So if it's raining outside, it'll be raining in the game, snowing, sunny, windy, all of these things. But still no player versus player. Apparently, though, they are not completely clueless, and it is something that they are working on. They also are working on the ability to trade your Pokemon with other trainers, but so far they haven't implemented it, and they're not going to until further notice, apparently. Anyway, moving on. We're going to skip that one too and go to Mega Man 11. Mega Man 11 just got a release. Capcom was doing a Mega Man stream at the beginning of the week. It is set for release in March of 18. Before that is released, though, we are going to get 2 Legacy Collections out for the Switch, I believe. Yes. And between the 2 of them, we'll have all of the previous Mega Man games on those 2 discs. And those 2 cartridges, because the Switch doesn't do discs. Anyway, Mega Man 11, it looks fantastic. It's retro style. It's got that Mortal Kombat kind of thing where it's a side-scroller 2D environment-ish that's actually 3D. It's just a 2D plane that you're playing on. But it's just like the original games that we used to play for the original Nintendo. It looks fantastic. I'm definitely going to be looking into it if I can get my hands on a Switch between now and then. Alright, so the things that I have skipped. Detroit, Become Human. I'm not touching this one with a 10-foot pole. It being in the news is doing good things because they're going to sell a lot of games. I don't think there's more to be said about it aside from the fact that Quantic Dream does really fantastic stuff. When they originally were talking about this game at E3, I think it was this most recent E3, it was a lot of praise. Everyone was super excited about it, and now they're all up in arms because of a horrible character doing a horrible thing in a video game that they do even worse things in movies. So anyway, that's as much time as we're given to that because we're moving into Overwatch. Preseason has started. Have you been watching it? Because I totally have, and it's super exciting. It takes me a second to get used to watching Overwatch because I'm used to watching FPSs like Halo and things of that nature. So the speed of Overwatch is just a little bit for my brain to handle. I'm not as young as I once was, and so it takes me a second to process things. Overwatch happens so fast. But it is super exciting to watch, and I'm super stoked for the regular season to start. That is the end of your video games video for this week. And very, very much for watching your week in Nerddom right here on Generally Nerdy. I am Generally Nerdy, and you can find me at generallynerdy.net. You can find me on Patreon, if you want to help support the things that I do here, patreon.com/generally nerdy. On Instagram, at generally nerdy, all one word. On Twitter, at generally_nerdy. Facebook, generally nerdy, or generally nerdy photo. Just go to the website. It's the easiest way to find me. Go to the Patreon. Help me keep making this wonderful content for all of you fantastic nerds out there. There is going to be some new stuff on the channel soon, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm going to try and start what I'm going to call what was the name that I had? Nerdy House. Yeah, I can't remember. Nerdy, it's the cooking stuff and just general things around nerd life and things like that. So, that being said, thank you again for watching. I do have to remind you guys always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.